Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about The Haunted Halls by Glenn Rolfe. This is from Shadow Work Publishing. There's their logo right there. And uh, there you have it, the cover. I like that cover. And this is the story of the Bruton Inn. It's a small inn in Maine. And uh, some strange stuff that's going on there. We have our main characters, basically Rhiannon, I think that's how you say it, and Jeff. They work the front desk, and they get sucked into some weird goings on at this hotel, and they end up connecting with a modern day shaman, Lee Buell. Again, I think that's how you say his name. And they have to work together to figure out how to stop what we come to know as the Ice Queen. And that's very much quick, very little nutshell of the story. Um, so, what you've got here, again, you've got the Bruton Inn, and we start with one of those sort of randomish kind of scenes where someone ends up dead through very bizarre means. Basically, we're introduced to the Ice Queen. Then we start to meet our main cast of characters, and they're mainly the people that work at the hotel, but we get to meet a lot of the guests as well. And the hotel is pretty packed. There's a lot of people there, a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of terror being perpetrated against them. So, and then we meet Lee Buell. He's doing he reminded me of the Michael J. Fox character from The Frighteners. He's a person with real supernatural abilities, but he basically uses it to scam people out of money. Writes books about his adventures. He does a lot of book signings, but he doesn't really use his powers the way maybe his legacy should be used until he meets Rhiannon and Jeff and um, and gets involved in what's going on at the Bruton Inn. We also have, at first, what seems to be sort of a disconnected um, other story going on about a runaway girl, but she eventually, and that this happened in the past. So we're getting this, we're sort of jumping back in time to this disconnected story that will become quickly connected and inform the events of the present day, as it were. Um, and so we learn, as the readers, we're going to learn a lot more about what's going on than the characters know. And this is a very violent, very bloody, over the top book. The Ice Queen uh, doesn't mind getting her hands dirty, just killing people. She makes a couple of Renfields. I mean, come on, if you're watching a review about a horror novel, you should know what a Renfield is. Um, Turns some people into her servants to do even more of her dirty work, and they're very violent and disgusting people. Um, and so there's a lot of mayhem going on. And while I was reading this, I kind of thought of it as a reverse of The Shining, the other side of the coin, because whereas in The Shining you simply have these basically three people completely isolated in this hotel, slowly, well, at least one of them definitely slowly being driven mad because of the isolation. There are some other characters and other things that go on, but very, very much about the isolation and these few characters trapped in this isolated situation. Whereas now we've got an inn. It is in a small town, so but it's barely isolated, and it's full. It's packed with people, and it's not a quiet. There is some dread, but it's much more of a violent bloodbath. Um, so completely opposite of what The Shining is. I don't know why it just kind of popped into my head when I was reading it. I was like, this is the opposite. Because it's just lots of people here for the slaughter, and there is some wonderful slaughter here. I like Glenn Rolfe's style. I like his characters, maybe because I'm a comic book geek and a horror geek, and his characters, at least especially in this, are kind of comic book geeks and horror geeks and rock music geeks, and and I don't use the term geek derogatorily. Fans, I could have said, but they're a little bit more than just your average fan. So I dig that. I love pop culture references. Of course, I mean, when you're reading and you find a character that's you think is similar to yourself, you make a different connection. And a lot of the newer horror writers that are coming out um, are either my age or well, the newer ones aren't my age. They're younger than me. Some of them around my age, but younger. But still, there's that connection with the characters that they're writing. For me, anyway, I really like that. And Glenn tends to write characters that I can connect with. Um, again, if they're throwing out comic book titles and music, band names, and horror movie stuff, and it's stuff that I know and stuff that I dig, I'm gonna dig the characters. Uh, so maybe Glenn is just you know he knows what I like, I guess, and he's writing it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I really like the characters. There are some very surprising things that at least they surprised me. Uh, uh, Things that went on. Of course, I don't want to tell you what they are because I hope you'll be surprised as well. Um, but I like the character of Lee Buell. I wouldn't well, I was gonna say I wouldn't mind seeing a story about him that takes place before this, except that that's kind of when he was a scam artist ish kind of guy. So it could be interesting, but it wouldn't be maybe as interesting as a story that takes place after this when he's sort of accepted his legacy. But either way, nice, interesting character, and I wouldn't mind seeing more of him. Um, I guess that's kind of a spoiler. He survives. Sorry about that. I gave that part away. um, but yeah, the villain, the Ice Queen, and her Renfields, very horrifying. Very. Um, I understand their motivations, so very well written, not just kind of a one-off flat horror villain. Um, the Ice Queen is definitely a well-rounded monster, for lack of a better term. So that's The Haunted Halls by Glenn Rolfe, and I give it 4 out of 5 bloody icicles. Much like my food ratings, I seem to just rely on things being used as weapons and covered in blood. Um, but so 4 out of 5 bloody icicles. You can see there. I recommend it. Obviously, I think you should pick it up. So I will have links for the book in the description below, one or two, however many I can find, I guess. So you can pick it up and enjoy it as well. Comments, if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open to spoilers. Um, just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. And please like, share, and subscribe if you like what you see here and feel like sharing it. And just subscribe whether you feel like it or not. No, I'm kidding. But please do subscribe. So that's it for this episode of the Low Budget Review Show. And I'm Eric Smith. Until next time, read more books.